So I'm really excited for this month's workshop because foundational wellness to me is so critical. It's been a journey throughout my entrepreneurial career. I've been an entrepreneur for a decade. And at first, I really subscribed to hustle mentality. And if you're in the lounge, we talk about hustle mentality and hustle culture all the time because there is this outsourcing from Silicon Valley that it's got to look a certain way. And if it's not, then you're not working hard enough and you're not achieving well enough. And that is patently false. And I know I became an entrepreneur because I freaking want more freedom. I don't want to be tied and shackled to my business. I love my clients and I love what I do, but I also have a life. So that's why I'm so passionate about foundational wellness, our theme for this month. And I am delighted that Danika reached out to me I think a couple months ago now and said, I really want to be a guest in the lounge. I have this huge topic that I want to talk about, this amazing expanse of expertise. And I was like, fuck yeah, we're just gonna drop it. We're just gonna drop it. And so I'm really excited for tonight. And so Danika, I'd love for you to take a moment and just tell us about your passion for this, your experience, your background, and what you actually have seen within your work with entrepreneurs as well.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. And Veronica, thanks for having me. I really, it lands for me with what you speak into hustling, because that was, I would say as well, my mentality. And I think that's a generational thing. I don't think that's going to take some time for people to heal and transform that. So yeah, where I come from, I my background is in nursing, but I just finished my master's to be a family nurse practitioner. And while I was in the program, I was diagnosed with MS, and it was interesting because I went through a year of my life where I was feeling really, it's not even depressed. It's like completely defeated, feeling like my life was over and that was it. And from that, I feel like it's like a rising from the ashes where I realized, hey, there's more to this. I don't have to be a victim of my disease. I get to still live the life that I envisioned, but how am I going to make that work for my life? And what happened was I started medications and I felt horrible. I was like, why would I take these if I feel better off them? So I started to look at what other approaches I could do. And I call it my double masters. That's kind of a joke between my husband and I, because I became so passionate about nutrition and lifestyle and how that actually could support autoimmune, which then I realized was actually chronic disease management. And all the things that we create are from how we're living our life, like stress, overwhelm, poor coping, poor eating, poor exercise or lack of exercise. And so through that, I built my business, and it's called Health Intentionally. And I really support, specifically I work with women, but I always get the odd male trickling in, which is a good vibe for me. And I'm actually working with a couple right now, which is fun. And I support people in creating that sustainable lifestyle change, that transformation, because it's truly a lifelong journey and it takes simple steps every day and choice and commitment, but it gets to be fun and easy.
Yeah.
So that's my come from. I really approach health from, yes, this understanding of Western medicine, but more importantly, I think, is this how can we heal the disease from our own cellular powers through what we feed our bodies? And how does that work in Western medicine so we can actually come off our medications?
Yeah, 100%. And I love your business name, Health Intentionally, because I think that, especially within the entrepreneurial space, but just in general, we get kind of almost slingshotted or boomeranged around all of these concepts, and they're always just going and going and going. And so when you're responding to your external cues of like, I have to be here and then I have to be there and then I have to do this and I have to do that. There's no intentionality there. You are responding. You're not thinking about how you want to respond. And then that can lead down quite the rabbit hole of either physical unwellness or disease, as we've heard that term many times now, using disease as two words in one. But that's where we come to, and all of a sudden we wake up one day and it may not be an autoimmune disease, it might be something else, but even something as simple as like irritable bowel syndrome oftentimes has a stress component. And so when we titrate down our stress and we create that foundation to stand on and to return to, we end up with a much more capable self, better results for the work that we do, and just joy.
It's interesting. Joy is like a key piece in this, that why are we making it hard? And I'll just pause, full disclosure, I do have my toddler with me. So if you hear some strange sounds in the background, she's well supported. There's a lot of toys. We had a breakdown, and it's okay, because guess what? If you're committed to something, you just keep doing it. You don't just like say, okay, I can. So we're working and we're making it happen, and she got some blueberries. So I think we're all pretty happy, but you might see her face pop up once in a while. You can give her a little wave. She'll appreciate it.
I think like it's really great that she's there, because that's another point, that like, it's not either or,
Yes.
like, it's not like I have to make myself so singular that that's all I'm about. But we're not like that as humans. We have so many different interests. And actually, as an entrepreneur, I can say that it is a danger having the power of entrepreneurship, because oftentimes when somebody says like, oh, you've got a talent for this, you start to think, oh, how do I make another business out of this? As opposed to, how do I have a nice hobby? Or how do I have just relaxing time with friends instead of making something?
I get stuck in that trap all the time. You are actually speaking my language. I think we would be friends if we lived in the same country. So what I call what you're speaking into is compartmentalization.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing it with my business. I would be like in school pretending I wasn't running a business. And then I'd be like in my business pretending I wasn't, it's not pretending, but like disassociating from what was all coming up around me. And I realized like, this is all of me. It's just and what matters is who we show up as opposed to what we do. It's who we're being. And so, right now I'm being a mom, but I'm also being my passion and health intentionally. And I'm sharing something that fuels me, and will leave this call and feel inspired. I will, because it fires me up to share. And hopefully you will too. And, hopefully that there's maybe some learning in this as well for everybody, that we don't have to pick and choose.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that you're really excited about like a few particular things about health and wellness, but I'd love for you to tell us like, what's something that's really exciting to you that you've either learned recently or integrated into your own wellness journey recently?
So, there's something that a tool I have that I'd love to share with the audience, but I'll share it at the end if you just remind me.
Yeah.
I think what's coming up for me that I think is an overarching theme that is very exciting in the world of medicine, and I'm actually going to a conference on Saturday to present on this, but it's really looking at virtually being able to support people and transforming their lifestyle. Because at least in Canada, we've had almost like a separation between what we can share with patients online about food and lifestyle and all that, and how we integrate that into our practice. So now we're modernizing. It's like I feel a little bit like we're on the forefront of pioneering, like, hey, we know XYZ is working, but the action mode hasn't been put in place. So how do we bridge that? And now we're stepping into this, like, people are more open to talking about diet and getting more confident in which diet works, which I actually don't use that word diet, but the best way to describe it is that. the foods or the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And we're looking at how, thank you very much. Would anybody like a blueberry?
Get those antioxidants. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're looking at, hey, we can be through a screen and people can be experiencing the results. We don't need to go to the clinic every week or once a month, which isn't working. That doesn't work. What works for my clients, and this is profound, I guess I'll add this because it's so much, micro changes. I was working with my clients 3 years ago. I'd be like, okay, you need a personal trainer, you need a meditation coach, you need me, and like we're gonna do this all together. Like health attention was like this massive undertaking, and my clients were so overwhelmed. They would do it and they would get some results, but what's been most effective is micro changes every week, looking at the elephant in the room and shifting that. And oftentimes it's nothing to do with the food we're eating.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that. And I love that you landed on the concept that sometimes it's not about the food at all. It's not like I love ice cream and so I'm eating ice cream all the time. I'm probably stressed, and so I'm stress eating. Ice cream has the fats and the sugars that soothe the adrenals and the cortisol response that I'm having right now, but then it creates a negative feedback loop because it wasn't actually nutritive, right?
And now your gut wants more of that because you've grown the gut bacteria that's telling your brain. And not to mention, you're getting a hit of serotonin and dopamine from the dairy. So now you're actually kind of like medicating,
right?
Because it's the same neurotransmitter response if you were eating dairy or you were taking a drug to suppress the emotion.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when do people tend to come to you? Like what state are they in, or like, what are they typically experiencing when they come to your door?
The people that I normally end up working with have tried everything. And so sometimes I actually get people who aren't, like, when I think of a complex patient, I think of multiple disease processes going on. Like I think, okay, so you have diabetes, high blood pressure, maybe obesity, high cholesterol, maybe you have some inflammation. So I'm thinking that. But what actually it is even people who are, maybe they have Crohn's disease and they're just like not feeling well, but they've done everything. And now they're thinking, well, what can I do? So it's interesting. That actually landed for me because I look at my clients and I'm like, they're complex, but they're not metabolic syndrome complex, but they have the features of getting to metabolic syndrome. But the theme is that they've tried everything and they're really just exasperated and they don't feel well. And you can not feel well, but not have disease yet. Yeah. It's your body warning you, hey, we're not functioning.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to underline that. Like, you may not feel well, but it's not necessarily because something is actually physically amiss. It is because you're on the road to, and I know that I noticed that a lot with entrepreneurs. So I actually get a lot of clients at that kind of same stage where there's some sort of burnout going on. They've tried everything and they don't know what to do next, but they know they don't want to give up on their vision for their life, for the world, for the community. Right. And so you're receiving people when they're in a form of burnout, that they're just they've been on the hamster wheel and they're like, I don't know what's going on. So when they're in that place, I know for me and from the business sense, we need to do triage. We need to pull down the stress indicators, the stress causers. We need to kind of get things to be less intense before the work can actually start. So when somebody comes to you and they're like in that place of like, I tried everything, I don't know what to do, I feel ill, I don't know if I'm actually diseased, I might be experiencing disorders, but I might just be like ill, feeling ill. How do you start to triage them? Like, what are those first things? And I'm asking this because usually those first things, those first dominoes work for anyone, no matter what they're experiencing, including somebody who might be listening to the replay or might be here today who are thinking, I'm feeling intensity and I don't want to feel that much intensity. So where do we start when we're there in that place?
I heard
I love this because this is really the dualism, or I mean, multiplicity, I think is a better way to put it, of life and of creating wellness for yourself, where you get to have it all and get to be it all. It doesn't have to be this perfect, neat, compartmentalized line.
really appreciate you saying that, because it's taking me a while to get to that place. And I do everything in my power to be focused on these calls and interviews. And when I was like, found out yesterday we didn't have anybody, I was like, oh my goodness, like I can't do it. Like I was like, I'm gonna have to cancel. Like this isn't fair to the audience. Like a lot of nerds go through my mind, but it's really just authentic. So I'm going to do it like this, but you're not gonna hold it. I'm gonna hold it, okay? But you can join us.
And she matches you.
Yes, yes. And we also, come on, what do you want to play with? She also is a toddler, so she likes to have meltdowns.
The world is very intense. Actually, you know what? I think it's a really good metaphor for that experience. Toddlers don't have the toolbox that adults do, right? And so when they're experiencing environmental stimulation, good or bad, it's very intense and can either cause a meltdown or be like euphoric, and it's all very pure. And I think that that's a really great metaphor for when somebody's experiencing that burnout level of I tried everything, I don't know what to do next. Their toolbox is empty. So they need someone. Okay, so like us coaches, we're not like adults and the clients are children, but just in the way that an adult and a kid interact together, whereas the adult has a tool and is teaching the tool to the child in order to cope with the intensity. So we are coaches giving a toolbox to somebody because we happen to have the tools in this area. They probably have tools that we need too. It's a beautiful relationship, actually, in my opinion.
I agree. And just as much as my clients are learning from me, I'm learning from them.
Yeah.
And that was a beautiful parallel. So thank you. And what I heard you say in your question around, where do clients come to me, or what is something that they can think of as like a warning sign, or like this is getting to be not working anymore. My clients, like two things came up. First, I wanted to answer, what people may be feeling. So that could be inflammation, fatigue, mood, like not wanting to get out of bed or just feeling irritable. And also joint pain is another one, gas, bloating, and overall just general malaise, like a blah, that blah.
Yeah.
And
you're not depressed, but like you're not great either.
Yes, exactly. And so the second part, I think that I heard you ask was, what is something that people can do to start with? So I make it, thank you very much. Can I have one? No. All of them? You have one.
Ooh.
What I find is effective is beginning to look at what is going on and getting in touch with what you're actually feeling and experiencing with the foods you're eating. And so this, if you want to, you can write this down. This is something that I prompt my clients to journal. So I don't know if I'm going to remember it in the exact order, but essentially it's a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being like nothing, 10 being like, oh, extreme, I'm having so much of that. So there's about 8 things that we look at. And I mentioned most of them actually. Mood. So on a scale 0 to 10, how's your mood? Is your mood a 4? Is it an 8? Are you just like so happy? Or are you really not feeling well? And maybe even add in like, am I not very motivated? Because that can be a sign of low energy. Number 2, I asked the question of gas and bloating. So are you having any pain, cramping, gas, bloating? And what did you eat when you experienced that? So we always want to like, I like to do like a 7-day log. And it's not about judging what you're eating. It's about being aware of what the food inside your.
Oh, she muted you too.
She's a pro. You're a pro with this. Okay, yeah, don't sit with me then. And then I'm also sitting in her chair, which is hilarious. And the third thing I like to ask, or I like to know and be conscious about, is fatigue. So what is your energy level like 0 to 10? And also add in there if you exercise, because exercise can have a correlation with your energy. Because it increases your energy, which is sometimes feels counterproductive when you're low energy. You're like, go exercise. You're like, I don't have energy to do that. No, seriously, that is the remedy. That's the fix. And then I said mood, I said gas and bloating, energy. How are your bowel habits? That's really important. I do love talking about poop, but I know someone who does it more, so I'm gonna give her credit. Her name's Amy Walker. She's like the poo lady. She's amazing.
One of my good friends.
It is important.
She thinks it's fascinating, but it is important. It is. Like, I appreciate that you're going into a lot of the gut symptoms, because people don't realize, first of all, how tied in the microbiome is with our moods, our stress, and our wellness. But then also in reverse, that our stress can really affect our digestion. And it's almost like the canary in the coal mine, but people don't realize that. People think like, oh, I'm just having a really bad digestion week, or like, oh, like maybe I'm lactose intolerant now, which you might be. It's probably for the best, but 75%
of the world cannot digest dairy. And to be honest, right. I would argue 100%.
Yeah. There's just, I think it's like a scale of symptoms. Like, oh, you might just get the sniffles, and you might not realize that like a general like congestion isn't actually normal in life. But
exactly,
dairy aside, like the symptoms that are popping up suddenly with your digestion probably aren't about your digestion. And so I love that you're like not just asking what do you eat or what are your habits, but then also like, how is this all going? And then eat blueberries because they're really good for you.
Yes, they are. And it seems like the blueberries are more of a game at this point, but that's exactly it. Our gut is the one. Yeah, kind of. Let's be honest. Who doesn't play the game where you throw up the blueberry and try and catch it in your mouth?
Yeah, that, or like see if it rolls away under the counter when you drop one.
Exactly. Classic. How many blueberries I found under my stove. But our gut tells our brain what to eat, how to feel, what to think. And our immune system is 80% from the gut, which is so fascinating because if you think about it, when I asked the question about, are you feeling inflamed? Like, do you have any joint pain or muscle aches? That's another one I forgot. it's actually asking like, hey, does your body think that there's a bunch of foreign material in there, like processed foods or like too much unhealthy fats? There's a lot of other things that can be creating that, because as food moves outside the gut, the body has a immune response saying, hey, we're fighting a foreign object.
Right. So then actually, okay, so like, then let's turn this on the head, because, you know, I know that like, we can't just say, here's a prescription for food and you're good, but there are some things that we can start building into our daily life as far as food. And as you said, exercise too, to start creating a foundation of wellness so that when the stress spikes, we have support, at least in the physical. So,
Yes.
like what, I don't know if you have favorite foods or favorite habits, but you know, we'd love to hear some.
Yes. So this is actually what I was going to share at the end. And I think you've asked the question fantastic. And I think it's a great question. Do you want to share it? I bet you know the acronym, because one of the things you could do is you can print it off. I can actually send it to your group, or send it to you. You can send it out.
Yep.
And I tell people, put it on your fridge. So the acronym is called SAFE.
Okay.
And this is so that you don't have to get caught up in, what do I eat? What diet am I focused on? All the things. You get to just say, hey, if I eat all of this, I'm getting the most nutrition that I can get in a day. Like if I follow this, I'm on the right track. My body is, I guess what I want to say is, your body is receiving all the micro nutrients it needs, all the fiber, everything that it needs to function at its best.
It's supported.
It's supported.
Yeah.
So actually, and that's the first one. S is for supportive, healthy fats.
Ooh.
Yes, which is going to be your nuts and seeds, your avocado, your olive oil, or olive oil. And olive oil on its own, people that, like, I don't want to go on a tangent because really there could be so much, but we get so caught up in what oils and all these things. Olive oil is fine as long as we're not breaking it down when we cook. Don't get me wrong. I cook and I use it and all the things. It makes food taste amazing. But what I'm talking about is like a supportive, healthy version of olive oil is with your salads. So in your dressings and stuff. A is antioxidants, which we started with, our blueberries. But antioxidants are a beautiful thing that come from spices and herbs and greens and vegetables, quite frankly. So wine, coffee. So which I mean, when you're really stressed,
you're like, here for it, wine and coffee. I'm done.
Yeah, which is like what I do. I'm like, okay, wine and coffee. Yeah. But then I'm like, oh yeah, this isn't the use of antioxidants.
Yeah, I think there's a tipping point for those things.
Exactly. It's everything is in balance, right? Even if you only ate supportive, healthy fats, that wouldn't be healthy.
Yeah.
F is fundamental foods. And this is what I say to people. This is the bulk of what you get to be eating to really sustain this. And it's simple. It's vegetables, it's fruit, it's whole grains, and it's greens, which when you think about it, all those foods are foods that we know. I'm not telling you different granola bar brands. I'm not telling you crackers. I'm just saying, hey, if you know what it is, if it's an apple, it's an apple, you know, that's the motto I use.
Yeah.
And E is essential vitamins and minerals. And those are, I always say, talk to your provider, but essentially we need vitamin D. And if we're not going to be eating as much meat or meat at all, we need B12. And that's really important. And that's because we don't get B12 from food. There are some foods that do contain it. However, I wouldn't be able to measure exactly how much of that food you need to eat to get the amount that you need. And B12 is interesting because you can eat all the meat in the world, but if you don't absorb B12, you're not actually getting any. So you can have pernicious anemia and low B12, even eating meat.
Yeah.
And I actually think a lot of the world has that, maybe because of our meat not being as good as it once was. I don't know. There's something there. Don't quote me on that because I don't have evidence for that, but there's something about it that's not working. And yeah, that's why I didn't add it into my acronym, because we already eat too much meat, and meat is actually really inflammatory, especially chicken. So I tend to tell my clients, 1 to 2 times a week, if you're really wanting to maintain that and keep it in your diet, and maybe it's a cultural, or maybe your family loves to eat it, but it's not the focus food.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I've been through my own whole food plant-based journey. And I know like this isn't necessarily the platform. We're not going to be on this pedestal, but I can say for people who are looking to shift their diet again, and we're using diet in the scientific sense, not in the fad sense, that it is a little bit of a lesson. Like you said, just these little micro steps. Okay, I'm going to start working on the S first. So how do I get more seeds into my diet? How do I, like, are avocados on sale? Can I learn to make avocado toast? Be like the hipsterest millennial ever, right? Like, what can I do to just like start getting the S in? And then let's start getting in some more of the A's, more blueberries, more antioxidants, maybe not more wine, but like maybe just like pat on the back for like the one glass, like,
Yes, exactly.
And so taking those little steps, and then also allowing yourself to explore, because there's actually a lot more foods out there than I think a lot of people realize, especially in the United States and likely Canada as well. I grew up in the United States. And so I know that there's kind of like a meat and potatoes, very kind of like hamburger, French fries, which are, that's meat and potatoes again. So it's kind of like, those are the food groups, and that's it. Get your orange juice in the morning and some eggs and you're fine. But as you said, it can be quite inflammatory, and it leaves people not realizing that there are so many options available to them. So if you're looking to start adding more vibrance to your diet in order to get onto the SAFE acronym, which we'll include the link to that in the show notes so you can grab it. But explore different ethnic foods, try going to different grocery stores, shop the ring, right, at the grocery store. So you're staying in the outer area. That's not where the processed stuff is, in the inner areas. So if you stay in the outer area, you're looking at the deli, the bakery, the greens. And so you're more likely to have success if you just don't put yourself around the things. And now I'm going to ask a question for myself, because I am a person who has a love-hate struggle with exercise. And I get a lot more exercise living in Europe because we walk everywhere. We take public transportation everywhere. So I've seen my body change for the positive in that way. But as far as, intentional exercise, if we're being health intentionally, I'm not really, it happens and it doesn't. There's a little bit of yoga. So when somebody comes to you and like, it's time to build some sort of routine of exercise and wellness in the physical, because that again titrates down your stress centers and equips your body to manage more. Where should somebody like that begin?
I love that. So honestly, it's so simple. It's 150 minutes a week of walking, and
you got it.
Done. Yes, I believe there's more, and I can share pretty much the top 4, especially what my literature. I did a lit review and finished it last year, and it was really on non-pharmacological approaches to chronic disease management. And what came through in the exercise component was aerobic interval training. So like kind of like CrossFit, or like doing weights and then doing some walking. Getting a prescription for exercise, which is really cool. And you can ask your provider about that, but it really just talks about, it's really effective, actually, apparently. It's amazing. So frequency, intensity, time. There's 4 things I'm forgetting. It's actually, the acronym is FIT. Frequency, intensity, interval, and time. And so like the type. And then The other thing is the walking I mentioned, as well as individualized exercise plans. So talking to somebody about what would really work for you and where you want to go with your goals.
I actually think that, so like, I think people don't realize that that exists. Everybody's body is different. So I've done like the 23andMe, I got my genetics checked out, cool, fine. But one of the things they said was the way my muscles and frame and whatever, however they figured it out, I am actually optimized for sprinting, not for long distance. And I felt that personally throughout life. Like when we had to do the mile in school, oh my God, kill me now. But I couldn't do it. But if you need me to sprint down to the corner store to like grab some chips and salsa for the party, like I'm your gal. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it fast and I'm here for it. So I have like a little affirmation. But if you don't know that, and then you think like exercise needs to look this way because YouTube or whatever influencer is telling you that, or like, I don't know, whatever book you're reading, then you end up in a really negative, disappointing cycle where you feel like you're the problem when actually they're the problem. They told you the wrong thing. It's not for you. So I love that. Yes. I just want to underscore that if somebody's listening and they're saying, okay, yeah, I kind of want to explore exercise. I know I need it. That there are professionals that will find you an individualized plan to address your needs and your body type. I love the stuff that we're hearing behind you.
Oh my gosh. It's funny because I actually like it. Like I like that groove. I do the same as you. I'm like bopping.
We could exercise like just like bunny hopping down the street and then we're good. And if we had like sound effects as we went, perfect. Let's do it.
That is literally the point I was just going to say. Ultimately, any form of exercise, as long as you're moving your body for, even just 30 minutes a day, you're doing it. Okay. Don't expect more. Of course, if you want to run a marathon or you want to do whatever, or you need to have, massive changes in your health. Yeah, it might take a bit more, but there's a YouTube video. It's about 9 minutes long and it's called 23 and a half hours. Mm-hmm. And it was a physician who did it. Please don't put that in your ear. There's a blueberry going in her ear. But he lands the point of just get out there and exercise. And here's the data. It's just that simple. We make it again hard. Yeah. And that is not sustainable. That's what I tell my clients when they are starting out and they tell me, hey, I'm going to do the treadmill 5 days this week for 45 minutes. I'm like, no,
you're not.
I'm like, how about 2
you don't have
and 20 minutes?
Yeah, right. Without the habit built up and the stamina, you're going to disappoint yourself. And I've been
just like
there. I've been that person. I'm like, today's the day. I am going to be amazing. I'm going to fulfill all the goals. And then I end up, 2 days later, like I'm sore, I'm tired. I don't know why I did that. I never want to do it again. And then I'm actually working against myself. So I definitely want to like, just really highlight the SAFE acronym, just fulfilling some food needs for yourself, especially if you're an entrepreneur where you have a bit of a roller coaster of stress. You and I get that. Like it's a bit of a roller coaster of stress. So without that foundation of internal wellness, the stress will feel bigger. And then same with the physical exercise, moving yourself with that FIT acronym. So again, you create this foundation of wellness. Hello. I actually have a client who has found that just the daily walk over lunch down the trails near his house are making him feel more centered and more available in his work. So this is all stuff that's going to make you a better entrepreneur.
It's where I get my best downloads. Like I say to my husband, I'm caught up in my head. Okay, I got to go for a run. And then I come back. I'm like, I know what to do.
Yeah. It gives you the space to get out of the jumble and the stimulation. I think like that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize. And maybe that's really bringing it full circle to what I was saying at the beginning of our chat, where there's a lot of input and a lot of stimulation and responding to instead of thinking about what we want to do and then taking mindful steps. So when we go out for a walk, for a run, like it's really hard to work while you exercise. And I know treadmill desks are becoming a thing, and those are cool. And hey, you know, like I'm curious about getting one myself, but when we take the time away, that's where a lot of the fun solutions come. I know we have about 10 minutes left, and I see Emily's here. I want to see if she would like to, I don't know actually if her microphone's even working right now, but if she has any questions for Danika while we have her, because this is a brilliant human that we certainly want to ask the expert.
Thank
Emily,
you.
are you there though? I don't know if she's there. Oh, she don't know how to turn on her mic. Crazy. Well, do you want to type a question? We take typed questions. We take all questions.
Yes. And just on that note of questions, you know, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I love this. It is not a burden if I get a message from somebody with a question. I really love it. So yeah, please feel free to message me on Instagram, send me an email, whatever it is. I don't.
And Danika's information will be in the description. So if you're like feeling like I want to talk to her more, I've got my own questions, my own needs for wellness. Yeah.
Tips on running meetings with toddlers in the background.
For sure. Gracefully, done gracefully, truly.
Oh, that's you. You've been gracious with me. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not seeing questions come from Emily, so that's fine. But I've got to say this has been really brilliant, and I think it just underscores so many things that we tend to know, but then, as you said, get caught up in our heads about how big it has to be and how much of a push it has to be. So, you know, knowing we just have a couple minutes left, is there a message that you want to leave with our listeners?
What's coming up for me when you ask that is just to say you're already perfect. Like where you're starting is perfect. And so it's that idea of not judging yourself and not being in judgment of where you want to be right now. You get to have that vision of who you want to be and the body you want to have and how you want to feel. That's so important. Ask yourself the question of why does this matter to me? What's my vision for my health? But know that you're perfect in this moment and you get to love your body as it is now, as opposed to when you reach that vision, because when you reach that vision, and you will, you won't love your body. So you get to love it now.
Yeah. I actually just heard somebody say yesterday that happiness starts now, not when. And I think that's really important. And so I'm just going to highlight and add on to what you said, that there's already so many successes in your life, and you have more tools than you probably realize, and you get to grow that now. If you, as you said, if there's something you want, if there's a tool, if there's an idea, you get to grow that and add on to it. And the seeking shows that you have what it takes already. Yeah. I love the hat. I love how it matches both your outfits. Danika, it's been really, really great having you here, and I really appreciate you taking the time. So again, we'll share all of the goodies in the description. I'll get those from you. And so that'll be it for this month's foundational wellness workshop in the Empire Builders Lounge. And if you are listening to this and you want to become part of the Empire Builders Lounge because you're an entrepreneur who dreams big, doesn't take no for an answer, and wants freedom and peace for your life, then I hope you'll join us. And that link is also in the description. Thank you so much for Danika.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.